Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Growing Pains. It's been a bit of a while since the last one, but we're finally back, and I'm very excited for this episode. In this episode, I'm going to be talking with Daniel Kim. Dan's a friend of mine from the Korean games industry. We actually met at G Star there, which is the biggest games conference and event in Korea. And in today's discussion, we're essentially just going to be going over what life in Korea is like and also the status of the games industry, what it's like there, how big it is, who are the players. And for anyone that's looking to sort of expand to the Korean market, what's the best way to go there and how you can kind of do business in Korea from the games perspective. So hopefully we'll give you a good lowdown of how Korean games essentially work. Dan's a super knowledgeable guy on this, and he's very well connected in Korea. So if you are looking at maybe expanding beyond the UK, if you're looking at expanding or just want to learn more about what the Korean games industry exactly is like or how you can find good opportunities there, then I hope this episode helps you guys. I've linked in Dan's sort of socials below, so you should be able to contact him if you want to follow up on anything that we discuss. And as always, thank you for listening. I hope there's some good information here for you guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Well, welcome, Dan. Welcome back. This is the second time we're trying this now since the last one got kind of deleted. But yeah, just for the people, give us an introduction to you, your background in games, the whole shebang, really.
Well, basically, introduction to me. I was born in Korea, but didn't grow up in Korea. I grew up in Russia and Kazakhstan, and then came back to Korea, studied Korean, went to uni, and started my first job in the game industry at Smilegate Megaport. It doesn't exist anymore. It's now part of Smilegate Holdings. But I did a 6 month internship, and there I did a special project on um, making a database on Western developers and publishers.
Nice. What
Hmm.
about after that? Can you speak
Yeah,
about it or not?
yeah, of course. After that, I went to a indie VR studio. Called now it's called Developers United Games. Doug. They have a title called Real VR Fishing. There I worked there for like 8 months and 10 months. I can't remember, but yeah, almost a year. I left, and then I went to XL-Games. So XL-Games is part of the Kakao game family. Worked on a few projects, few Korea exclusive projects, mobile titles, and also worked a little bit on, well, a lot actually, a lot on the Arcade Chronicles. Well, when I was there, it was called Arcade 2. Now it's called Arcade Chronicles. So I did
Mhm.
some work for Arcade Chronicles. I left XL-Games last year, February, and then yeah, I traveled around the world with Jay. Actually,
Mhm. Good
been
times.
to, yeah, good times. Japan, Indonesia, all over Europe. Yeah, went to Nordic Games. Eh? Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and then came back to Korea. Went to a small marketing firm that does UA marketing for gaming studios. Um, that Yeah, the marketing was doing a
Yeah,
new
we don't need
project.
to get into the details that much. It's all
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. Yeah. Now I work for another big company in Korea. Can't really say which one, but because I have to
Yeah,
get
people can just
permission to
stalk
the
you and find
podcast.
you.
It's Yeah, yeah. Don't find me on LinkedIn. You'll see.
Exactly.
Just don't tell
But
other
yeah,
we. Mhm.
don't want the gossip to get around, huh? You're doing international podcasts behind their back.
I mean, yeah. I don't know how, because it's a huge group, so I have to get permission from like my company and then the board, like the headquarters and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into like the business in Korea in a bit, but yeah, just taking it back. What was it like uni life in Korea? Nowadays, well, I think the fascination with Korea has been pretty big over the last just decade in general. Is kind of tapering off a little bit, and then it's been very unstable. You had the whole election thing. I think last time we were speaking, it was right after the presidential scandal, and now I think it's kind of slowed down a bit. And then, like, a lot of the other problems in, I guess, birth rate and how things are happening in Korea. But yeah, give me a lowdown on Korea life, university, post university, just life in general. What's it been like these days? What's the outlook there?
I mean, it's like everywhere, you just live, you work, right? When you're in one country, you're tied down to where you are. Everyone lives like you, so you get used to it. But yeah, I mean, definitely Korea is different, I would say, to a lot of different countries. It is isolated in a sense, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because I would say it's like an island because North Korea is like an ocean, right? You can't really cross it. So I would say Korea is like an island. It's not as unique and different as Japan, I would say, but it is
Mm.
still has its own distinct culture, its own distinct etiquette. Many different aspects are very different in Korea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, as like a foreigner, I remember going there. It's actually in some ways I found it weird because like Japan is another world and they have kind of their own way of doing things, their own systems, but like the online services, they still got Amazon, they still got like international credit cards working. The weird thing about Korea for me was that like you have all local services, right? Like Google Maps doesn't work, you've got to use Naver for everything. They have like Coupang as their own version of Amazon. Like even games and things, there's like independent platforms and things that are just Korea only. So it's like it really is an island where it's like you get a little bit of the East and the West coming together, but it does feel very isolated in that you kind of have to use localized services for everything and it has its own way of working. Like everything's very just like it's only Korea, like all these platforms only exist in Korea. And I think it's weird because it's like it has the international reputation now, because especially like K drama, K pop, all that stuff, but then also the game side. Um, but it is still a very kind of gated ecosystem when you're looking at both business and just kind of the general way people live and the general life infrastructure. I think in most of the world where I've traveled, it's a little bit more global than that, but Korea does definitely have its own like version of everything to just itself and its people.
Yeah, definitely. Like Korea, like I said, it's like an island. It's isolated, right? It has its
Mm,
own apps, its own things, and there are a lot of different reasons why. There are a lot of explanations why. Like for example, Google Maps is because after the Korean War, GPS accurate maps are only available to the Korean government, so you have to lease the maps, the satellite imagery from the government. So Google isn't allowed to get that. Korean companies have been working with Korean government for a long time, so it's easier for them to get access to those
mm,
maps. So there are a lot of like excuses like that. For example, like Uber as well, right? They had an
yeah.
issue coming into Korea because of the laws. So yeah, I mean there are a lot of excuses, but overall, in my personal opinion, I'm not saying that this is the truth, but in my personal opinion, I think the Korean government wants to boost up the Korean companies so that
Mm,
they have an advantage in Korea, right? Expecting them to
yeah.
develop their software so they can go abroad. However, in reality, that rarely happens, right? Like you don't see, like for example, like chatting, right? Korea uses a app called Kakao Talk. You don't really
Hmm.
see Kakao Talk other than in Korea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, it works for some brands. I look at the old school Chaebol, Samsung, all this. Like, a lot of that is because of this, no? Hyundai as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Like they did give them a lot of benefits. The government did, and that's how the Korean country itself got rich real quick.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen that, like, over your time? So obviously, like, you lived in Russia, Kazakhstan, and now back in Korea, but you've really seen it over the last decade as well, or stuff, when it's become so popular internationally. We've had, like, a lot more foreigners come in. You get a lot of, like, foreign Koreans coming back now as well. So, like, have you seen it in terms of quality of life, in terms of just how people live changing over the last decade? Has there been any
Oh,
like big
definitely.
dramatic shifts?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Like I think it's a combination of many things. Combination of a lot of um, Koreans who were born or lived abroad coming back to Korea more.
Mm,
That plus the younger generation um, growing up with the internet, so they're more globalized in a sense, right? That is actually impacting the society in overall. Like for example, um, there people used to work like 60, 80 hours a week, right?
Hmm.
Now the cap is 52 hours. And, you know, if it wasn't for like the younger generation and like the people who have come back to Korea, their influence, I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not just that, like
But
even education wise, right? There are academies, after school schools, right? And they used to go till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Like you're talking about like middle school, high school kids. But now there's a law prohibiting them to, they have to go home at 10 p.m. So, yeah, I think that is all influenced by, it's more globalization, I guess, right?
yeah. But you also said that there's like I know about the timed thing, but isn't there also like a secret black market now where people barter for like work time in case you need to work more? So you like pay people to like work more?
Yeah, I mean, there has been rumors, but not like I haven't heard about it in the gaming industry. But like for example, Samsung or LG, right? For example, let's say you're a researcher and you need to finish this by Friday, and you've used all your time. You don't have enough. You need to finish it. You can't access the database because used all your time. So some people sell their ID to log into the system, their time basically, their overwork time. Yeah, so that other people can work.
I mean, it's a good way to make money, I guess, if you don't have that much
Mm-hmm.
work. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, pay me so you can work more. Nice. Yeah. People will always find a way to do what they want to do, I guess.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and actually recently there was a ruling that allowed companies to allow their employees to work till 64 hours a week.
Oh, so it's going back to the olden days. They're making it worse.
So the last president was a conservative. He wanted to push the limit to, it was more than 52 hours. It was something more than 52 hours. Everyone voted no, so that didn't go through. But Samsung, I think it was Samsung, yeah, Samsung was seeing that their researchers need more time because Korea makes a lot of money from semiconductors, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the researchers were saying they can't, get results within 52 hours per week, so they
Hmm.
want to work more. So the
Okay.
government allowed Samsung to allow their researchers to work more than 52 hours per week.
Uh, and then if they allowed Samsung, they have to allow everyone.
Yeah, I guess it will trickle down. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, fair enough. I mean, hey, get it in. Hopefully not to the 996 China culture, but
Hmm.
still back to traditional work culture in Asia. That's pretty predominant in a lot of those places still.
Actually, in the gaming industry in Korea, it's actually the opposite. It's pretty like chill. That's why
Yeah,
a lot of young people, or a lot of people actually in general, want to get into the gaming industry, because I won't
yeah.
say every gaming company is like that, but the bigger ones, especially the ones in Pangyo. By the way, Pangyo is like the Korean Silicon Valley. That's where all the IT companies are, all the gaming companies
Hmm.
are. Like NCSoft is there, Nexon is there. Um, Most big companies, except for Netmarble, Krafton, and Comtus, are there.
Okay, nice. So with the games industry, I think we've spoken about this before as well a little bit, but it's weird because like in the West and a lot of places, the games industry still seen almost like this outlier outside of mobile, especially. We're kind of just seen more as the outcast in some way and not as like the mainstream safe job, traditional corporate kind of thing. But in Korea, it's the opposite. Like in Korea, the games industry has this high like reputation, high level of reputation. If you work in a games company, you're like, you've made it. You've made it. You're basically in like a corporate bank or consulting or anything else in the rest of the world. You're basically in the highbrow society now. What is that like? Like, how did that even come about? And like, why does games have such a high status as an industry to work in Korea?
So basically, there are a few factors. One is the size of the company. So basically, in Korea, by law, there is the smaller to medium businesses, and then there's big businesses, right? Big businesses are like huge conglomerates, like huge businesses, which include like Samsung, Hyundai, LG, right?
Hmm.
Um, Not a lot of companies fit into that criteria, but gaming companies do fit. Big companies like Nexon, big companies like probably Crafted as well now. Big
Hmm.
companies like NCSoft, right? So big companies apply. For those big companies, there are stricter labor laws, so it's really hard to fire someone. On top of that, IT companies, they were like those gaming companies made a lot of money, right?
Hmm.
So it was like 2019, I think, 2018.
Hmm.
There was once a basically a bidding for developers. So a non-gaming company called Naver, which is like I guess Google of Korea,
Hmm. Yeah.
they um upped the salary for all developers. So everyone flocked there. And then the other game companies all matched the price. So the Korean developers who are skilled enough to go to those big companies get paid about probably like not twice as much, but nearly there, like twice as much than other um, jobs, basically.
Wow. So actually getting fairly paid.
Yeah, getting fairly paid plus you can't get fired or it's really hard to get fired, right? So those two
Yeah.
combined, everyone wants that job.
Yeah, and I guess like you said with games, it's like the work culture is also a little bit better. It's less crunch like some of the bigger companies, and you still get, the high level of sort of pay and qualification. No, that makes sense. But it is still like very heavily dominated on the mobile side in Korea, right? More than PC console itself. I think you also have a lot of just games being played in public every day from the national Koreans. It's one of the biggest markets.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people play games. Yeah, I think it was. Wait, I have the statistics. It was like almost 60%. Yeah, 60% as of 2024. 60% of the whole population play games.
Yeah.
And that's like on the decline. It was up to 74.4% in 2022,
Oh
but that's
damn.
COVID.
So it's, okay, yeah, that makes sense. No, I think that's a pretty similar decline for most of the world at this point. But it's also
Yeah.
a super big, valuable market, right? You have numbers for the monies and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I hear.
So basically, Korea is the fourth biggest market in the world. So of course, it's America, China, Japan, then Korea. Um, Percentage
We're
wise,
fifth
Korea
in the
is
UK.
7.8%. Yeah, UK is the fifth with 5.4% of the market. Korea is 7.8%. Japan's 9. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Korea is pretty big, and it's a lot of people want to come to Korea, or like Korea companies don't want the internal market because the ARPPU is really high.
Yeah.
So
Similar to
for
Japan.
no, way more than Japan. So for example, Japan has like a lot more people. The population is a lot
Hmm.
higher, right? And they
Yeah.
dominate 9% the global market. Korea has like I think Korea has less than half of the population Japan has, but it has 7.8%.
Damn.
So Koreans spend a lot of money on games.
Yeah. No, I mean that's why a lot of Western devs are also looking to push there. But it's also interesting because you're saying like from Korea side, Korean devs and stuff, you're really looking at pushing outside of the Korean market now, right? Like they're trying to become more global. You're looking at Western markets, China, all of that. Like it's this weird, I guess, dichotomy in the world where in the West we're all just like, hey, let's go activate Asia, and there it's like,
Mhm.
hey, let's go activate the West. So what's happening there from the Korea side looking out?
Well, again, like a lot of different factors. First thing is that most companies that are looking abroad are big companies, so they have money to spend and to experiment, right? That's one,
Yeah.
and they've already activated their own internal market, right? So they already have the Korean market. They don't need the Korean market anymore. Number two is that the genres that make money in Korea are very specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is in Korea we call it lineage like. So there is an IP, a franchise called Lineage, and
Mm-hmm.
Lineage M and Lineage 2M mobile titles make a lot of money. So there are those players. It's a certain number of players. There's a lot of them, but it's a limited number of players that play those games and spend a lot of money. Like they spend about a minimum like $1,500 to $2,000 per
Mm-hmm.
month, right?
Wow.
So that is we those companies, big companies, keep fighting over that pie, right?
Yeah.
So and it's not growing, and those people are actually decreasing in numbers.
Yeah, I guess the younger generations have like a different sort of mindset when it comes to games and what they play, right? Like
Hmm.
this is more traditional gamers going into MMOs, spending thousands of hours, really committing. Like, especially with global audiences now and with the younger generation being a bit more like globally minded, like you said, I guess it's like a split almost in terms of the types of games that they play, or do you still see it being roughly the same across all generations?
No, I think per generation it's very different what they play. Um, the younger generation, I would say, like the kids right now, like in their teens, right? They play Roblox, I guess, right? They play a lot of
Yeah.
Roblox. Like early 20s, mid 20s, they play a lot of Minecraft still, and
Yeah.
everyone plays League of Legends. But yeah,
Yeah, so still like pretty
compare
international games, right? Not as much on the local side.
yeah, yeah, and compare that to like 30 plus, right? They play mostly Korean games.
Okay, so there's almost like a generation divide. The younger generation is looking at the rest of the world, playing
Mhm.
foreign games. The old generation is a little bit more like of the traditional, like the games that they kind of grow up with, kind of thing in the local markets, where it was less easy to find some of these bigger games from outside, I guess.
Yeah, but it is still limited to a certain degree because, like, when you say, "Oh, you're a gamer, you play games," right? Almost
Hmm.
everyone assumes you just play League of Legends, right? That's like the maximum of like Western games. Um,
Yeah.
then people who actually play more, like, for example, people who play Steam games, they say, "Oh no, I'm a Steam gamer." So in Korea, Steam gamer is a whole different term to gamer.
Oh, really? So they actually class them
Yeah,
like separately.
yeah.
Oh,
Steam
wow.
gamers are Steam gamers. They're not. Yeah. Well, I guess there's a subsection of gamers, but yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've never actually heard that. What about someone like Crofton, right? With PUBG and everything, like they're trying to be global, the hipster company in Korea, I guess. Like, how
Mm.
do they fit into the pie? Are they more skewed towards the younger generation as well, or?
Yeah, definitely. They're skewed towards the younger generation. Plus, um, they are choosing a different tactic to the old traditional Korean big companies. They are not focusing on the Korean market that much. I mean, there still are, but not that much. And they're more focusing on the global market.
Yeah. And then I guess yeah, just diving into a bit more of the Korean game side, like who are the players? What do they do? What's the basic
Mm.
secrets you can tell us from all these companies and how they work?
I mean, it was actually on the 9 o'clock news recently. So
Hmm.
in Korea, traditionally, we used to say the three N are the kings of games, right?
Hmm.
Three N were Nexon, Netmarble, and NCSoft.
Yep.
But that is not the case anymore. Now the new thing is Krafton, Nexon, and Smilegate. Um, Out of those three companies, they all have very different strategies on how they work. For example, Krafton have one IP, right? PUBG.
PUBG.
Well, they had one IP, PUBG.
Enzoy
Um,
now as well.
yeah. So their strategy is to acquire a lot of companies, and especially companies that have IPs, acquire smaller studios and learn how they operate, or have like MOUs or partnerships, and they try to
Hmm.
learn how other companies go. operate. Not Korean companies, but like European, American companies, how they operate, and kind of fuse that to their way of business, the Korean way of business.
Yeah.
That's why they have been on the shopping spree recently, right? Buying left and right. Um, yeah, but for them, they're more interested in IPs and how the business is run.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess it's also like they're basically becoming the Korean Tencent, right? That's kind of where they're at right now.
Yeah, but the difference is they're not showing love to Korean companies that much.
Okay, just literally going outside, and then I guess like
Mhm.
both Smilegate and Nexon are still a bit more internally focused, still looking out, but still got more of their foot in the Korean market, I guess.
Slightly different. With Nexon, they're more about experimenting, right? They
Mm.
make pay to win games. They make non pay to win games. They just experiment because they do have a lot of money from other titles. Like they make a lot of money from Dutch and the Fighter in China. They have Maple Story, so they still have a lot of money coming in, so they can experiment a lot. So like that's why they create a Mint Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's why First Descendant on Steam, right? They are trying to try many different things. Maybe like a small group, right? Like 10, 20 developers in one group. Maybe that's the key to our success. Maybe a big studio, right? Is the key to
Mm.
success. And so they're trying many different things and learning from their mistakes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And
Yeah.
then
And then Smilegate
Smilegate.
is a different story. Smilegate is they like to keep to themselves, to be honest. And it's really hard to find information about them because, like I said, they like to keep to themselves.
Yeah.
And also, they don't make an IR deck or anything like that because they are a
Interesting.
private company.
Yeah. But then
The
they have their own version of Steam, right? Like they have Stove, like the Korean version of Steam that they're pushing, for like foreign indie games and things like that.
Yeah. So Stove, a lot of good guys there that will actually help you. Because I'm not an ambassador for Stove. Just disclaimer, I'm not involved with them in a monetary sense or anything. But if you're a smaller company, even if you're a big company, they're a good company to talk to, a good platform to talk to because the KPI of Stove is not revenue, right? Right
Mm-hmm.
now, what they want is more good games, a lot of games, a lot of good games, and a lot of players. So they'll help you with localization. They'll help you with marketing. Oh, it depends on how you negotiate with them, of course, but they can help you with getting into the Korean Asian market, not just Korean but Asian market. So up
Yeah.
until 2024, the Stove was focusing in the Korean and Southeast Asia market, growing players
Mm-hmm.
there. But from what I heard from one of the guys at Stove, 2025 they're gonna focus on global expansion.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I mean, for indies or anyone looking to kind of get into Korea and like kind of dip their feet into it, that's probably like the best way to go, right? Like Contact Stove, if you have a good game. Sounds very much like what, Game Pass was back before they had anyone just trying to build a platform. So it sounds like a similar kind of deal here.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, hit them up. They'll help you. And worst case scenario, you'll learn stuff, right? You'll get numbers. You'll see what works, what doesn't work, right? Worst case scenario, you'll get that.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you'd recommend in terms of working with Korean companies or looking at the Korean market in terms of trends or things that like, if you come from the outside you might not necessarily consider, or you're just like, oh, how do these Western chumps don't know this basic stuff about Korea life or Korea work etiquette?
I mean, there's a lot of work etiquette, right? But if you aren't Korean, they appreciate if you do know. But even if you don't know, they'll be like, it's fine, right? But there's too many like business etiquettes. Oh, but one thing, like if you do come to Korea, bring a business card, right?
Yeah, same as
Yeah,
Japan.
yeah, same as Japan. Korea doesn't use LinkedIn that much. Um, they use a there's a different app like LinkedIn, but it's for business cards. So
Okay.
usually bring business cards, and when you give it to them, use two hands, right? Two hands to give it to them. When you receive, use two hands, and don't put it in your pocket right away. Wait until the meeting is over, then put it in, your wallet, your card holder, whatever.
Yeah, it's very similar to Japan as well, right? It's like the same thing, and then like if you're in a table, you're supposed to like leave it on the side next to you while the meeting's happening or
hmm
something. It's like showing off
hmm
all the cards you get. Okay, no, that's always a good one. Anything else that you'd say is like top of mind? Just basics or
Um.
fundamentals?
Okay, so this is, I guess, cultural difference.
Mm.
If they are, if they don't give you a straight answer, and if they take a long time to answer to reply back to you, usually it means no to whatever you're talking about, right?
Mm. Read the room.
Yeah, read the room. So um, a lot of the Korean culture is very non-confrontational, so they don't like confrontation, so they don't like
Hmm.
saying no. So
Yeah.
a lot of times when they want to say no, they'll kind of hint at saying they're busy, or we'll think about it, right? That usually means no in Asian culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Take the hint, guys. They're not interested. Yeah. And then what about like the indie scene? What's the indie scene like in Korea these days? It's been kind of growing a little bit from what I've heard and seen, but still relatively kind of dominated by the big players. And like you said, some of the bigger ones like the experiment next one experiment with Mint Rocket, that kind of thing. But what is like I guess the underground indie scene like there?
There definitely is an underground scene, especially a lot of young kids coming out of college. There are a few colleges, not good ones though, but there are a few colleges that specialize in like game design, game art. There are a few
Mm-hmm.
colleges and a lot of college students, or even like bigger colleges, big universities, like prestigious universities. A lot of kids actually started making like groups, clubs, right? Game development clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So they would gather together and make games and learn about the gaming industry. So there are indie games coming out. It's just two things. One, it's either a passion project that is funded by the government. So there
Mm-hmm.
is a government that gives grants out to indie studios, right? And each year they have a thing they want. Everyone knows. They don't
Mm-hmm.
say it, but everyone knows what it is they want, right? So they are
Yeah.
so the games that come out like 2 to 3 years, for 2 to 3 years, it's going to be just that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, Lies of P, a game published
Yeah.
by Neowiz, did well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's just those type of games like Souls like it's just Souls like
Yeah.
games, a
I
lot of
mean,
Souls like
that's
games,
also the rest of the world
right?
though. That's not just a Korea thing.
Yeah, but like the whole indie scene can be like 90% can be summarized by that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the quality is not bad. Like for example, I took one of the top people of G5 Entertainment. She was in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
so we went to a event called Burning Beaver. I know it sounds weird, but it's not. So Burning Beaver is a indie indie game showcase, sponsored by Smilegate.
Mm-hmm.
She was very surprised by the quality. The quality is actually not that bad. Quality of games. It's just
Yeah.
the diversity. Diversity is not there,
Yeah. It's
right?
hard to stand out. People aren't going outside of
hmm
the box as much.
I mean, yeah, it's either that, and the second thing I was gonna say, they do go outside the box, but it's basically a passion project. Like you can't really make money off of that game, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't know how to do business.
So, is there a space for non-live service games there, like more premium titles, that kind of thing, or is everything kind of just driven, especially if I guess if you want to publish or if you want to grow anywhere, it's very orientated towards like live ops, live service games that have more money potential.
It depends on what kind of game you have, what kind of money you want, I guess, right?
Hmm.
Um, if you want to make, if you're a big studio, a lot of people, you want, it's a big game, you want to make a lot of money, then live service is the way to go, right? Definitely.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not just Korean publishers. Korean publishers are looking everywhere for it, but also Chinese publishers. There's so many Chinese publishers looking for the next big thing, right? Live service game.
Yeah.
So yeah. But if you are okay with, not like hundreds of millions of dollars, right? If you're okay with that, then yeah, indie scene is also okay, but you have to target, like I said, those Steam gamers.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and if you want to target Steam gamers, I would suggest you contact a um, marketing agency in Korea who can help
Mm.
you with marketing, especially with influencer marketing, because most of the Steam
Yeah.
gamers are very closely tied to like streamers, YouTubers, those like gaming influencers, right? So if they play it, you are nearly guaranteed a certain number of people to play it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, is there like a local platform, or is it all still kind of YouTube based for influencer marketing and all of that?
No, so Twitch was in Korea, but they left.
Yeah.
Whole another story. Um, yeah, I could
What
talk about
happened?
it
You
for
could tell us.
hours.
Give us the lowdown, the quick
It's the law.
5 minute gossip. Oh, the law.
So basically, um, Korea has a law where the company has to pay per bandwidth they use, right? So,
Okay.
for example, that's why, for example, YouTube has an offshore server in Korea, like a clone of a server in the headquarters in America, that
Hmm.
are so that it doesn't need to travel that much, so the bandwidth is limited, right?
Okay.
So that's how they keep afloat, and they also had a deal with the Korean government, so that's how they're staying afloat in Korea. Twitch, it used to be direct, right? It's not saved; it's streamed right away, right? So the bigger they grow, the more people that watch Twitch, that
Hmm.
use Twitch, the more money they
Yeah.
pay. So per customer, they're losing money.
Okay.
So basically, the business didn't make point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because the European companies were eyeing that law up too. So from Twitch's perspective, if they, just take the losses in Korea and just stay here, which would have been overall, I think personally, I think would have been good because a lot of like Korean streamers are becoming big, right? There are other
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
Korean streamers who speak English who are becoming big, right? So it could have been good for Twitch overall in the long run, but they decided to leave because if they allow the government to bully them like that in Korea, then other
Other
countries
people
might do
might
that.
follow suit. Yeah.
Yeah,
So has it all
and
moved to YouTube now, or?
no, so actually, most people don't even consider YouTube as an option.
Okay.
So YouTube is not for live streaming; is not that big now.
Hmm.
Two companies took most of them. One company is called Chijijik,
Mm, yeah.
CHZKZK. I don't know English spelling, but yeah. So basically, what it is it's basically Twitch, but
Yeah.
run by Naver, the company I was talking about, right?
Well, basically.
hmm To be fair, I've talked to the people who are there, and they
Hmm.
didn't know this was going to happen. It's just they were getting ready for like 2+ years, right?
Oh, but they were
But then,
already developing this, right? They were already
yeah,
developing this platform before Twitch left.
yeah, it's before this happened. They didn't know they were already developing it, but this happened. So they're like, okay, we're not 100% ready, but we're like almost there. Let's just launch it as early access. So they just
Yeah,
launched it,
get people while you can.
hmm and they did great. They're like, they are one of the top two. The other one is a streaming service called Africa.
Oh, okay.
It's mhm. It's a free CA. So it's like a free camera, but they call it Africa, right?
I
If that's
see.
how you say it. No, nothing racial involved.
Maybe they should have demoed it first.
hmm It's one of the oldest streaming services in Korea. It's a very, very old company, like really old.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
they actually rebranded recently. So let me check what their new name is.
So they're not Africa anymore.
Uh-huh.
I guess getting too big. Need to
Yeah.
change stuff, especially in the current political climates.
Oh, it's called Soup now. SOOP.
Soup.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
A new fancy logo, but Africa was not the favorite option. Yeah. Well, Soup was not the most ideal option because it was known for um, risque girls dancing. Yeah, not yeah. So it didn't have the best image because it had a lot of nearly naked women dancing.
Hmm.
It not to the point where it was like illegal and it was very bad, but like on the borderline, right? But that's why
Uh
they
huh.
rebranded and they were successful in bringing in the biggest streamer in Korea. So
Oh wow.
because the
Okay.
biggest streamer in Korea went there to sue, a lot of other people joined him because he's one of the biggest guys.
Yeah. So I guess they went from OnlyFans to like a legit platform. Then
hmm
bring in the big one and rebrand. Always a
Yeah,
classic. Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
I
Cool.
mean,
Cool.
they were always on the like borderline. They weren't OnlyFans, but yeah.
Not too far off though, I guess.
Mhm.
So, okay, looking at, I guess, the broader sense, then, like, what about Korea's interest in kind of going out in kind of the West and things like that? How are you guys looking to partner with people abroad? What is it just get revenues, publishers? What's the outlook from Korea going abroad? Especially since you've had, this huge explosion in the last decade with, K-pop, all this, like, there's a lot of popularity for Korean media out there. How is it looking outside of Korea now, from even within?
Oh, as in like the game industry or in
Yeah,
general?
more. Can go do both. We can do both.
hmm Well, in the game industry, everyone wanted to go abroad to they'll make
Mm-hmm.
it in Europe, make it in America, because a lot of the big companies right now have made it in China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's for example, let's take Smilegate. Crossfire is huge. That's how the company became
Yeah.
huge. Nexon, Dungeon and Fighter is huge. That's how they became big. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Crafton, PUBG, right? Mobile, Tencent Publishing, huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like most of the big companies already have China on lock one way or
Mm-hmm.
another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now they have the number two market, or maybe number one. We don't know the official numbers, but yeah, they have one of the top two markets in the world, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
only one way to go. They want to go to the US market.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the companies have been experimenting with a lot of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, with Nexon, they're experimenting. With Crafton, they're doing that, right? So, yeah, it's still in
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah. But that's like kind of the next big frontier, I guess, for Korean companies is really like America, Europe, that kind of thing. What about
Mhm.
like the event side then? Like, I know, I mean, we met together at G Star a couple of years ago, and that was a great event. That you've told me is kind of declining now. What's the
Mm.
event outlook in Korea? Like, where should people go? What are the main ones to like look out for?
I mean, yeah, G Star is still the biggest. I would say if you're gonna come to Korea for an event, come to G Star.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's nice to know someone because there are a lot of unofficial networking parties till 2 a.m. going around,
Mm-hmm.
and then from 2 a.m. it's people who know each other go around to like 6 a.m. drinking. Um, yeah, I mean that's where a lot of the business talk is done. That's where a lot of networking is done. So Yeah. You won't get a lot of things done on the B2B floor. I mean, there can be, right? I'm not saying there isn't, but
Hmm.
um, usually, traditionally, it's changing now, but traditionally, the directors would not go to B2B floor. They would
Okay.
send people lower than them there, to go to the B2B floor to get all the business cards, to do all the stuff. While the directors would meet
Mm.
other directors in private parties, networking parties.
Yeah, they still have like a lot of the hierarchical thing there, right? I've seen it both games, but outside as well. It's like you got the drinking side, so everyone's in whiskey bars, or you've got the side where it's like golf parties or like karaoke parties or something. It's very specific in terms of how business is done in Korea, and where you have to go, and there's still like the whole rule of hierarchy, I guess. You still have to drink when your boss says you drink and that kind of thing.
Well, less so. You don't have to drink when they tell you to drink. They don't really do that, like in the movies.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, a lot of the business and like networking is done behind closed doors still,
Hmm.
and because it's based on trust, right? But yeah, um, and different companies have different interests, right? So some company directors enjoy golf, so
Hmm.
they play a lot of golf. For example, Kakao Games loves golf.
Yeah.
They were on the news for wasting money on all the memberships on golf.
Okay.
Yeah. Hope no one from Kakao Games watches this, but yeah, don't tell them. Yeah, but there are companies that like whiskey, so like
Hmm.
Scotch. So a lot of directors would meet up at like they would rent a whole bar, or they would get like private rooms at the back and just invite other directors and just talk business and drink whiskey. There
Yeah.
are other companies that like poker, so they play Texas Hold'em and talk. So yeah, there are many different types of
Hmm.
meetings where you can learn a lot.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think it's enough said there, right? Without getting too deep, I suppose.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I've definitely seen it. I found it really weird when I first went, and it was like I was like asking, what do people do for fun, and like half the people that I met in the games industry is like, oh yeah, we're learning golf, and it's like your companies have stipends, right? Like specifically to help you learn golf and things like that for business, like networking.
It depends on the company. Yeah, a lot of companies that uh, give services to gaming companies
Hmm.
and do have lessons for free, memberships for
Yeah,
free. Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean it's cool. It's interesting. It's just interesting to see how the culture kind of differs. So, is there any other kind of, I guess, things trending in Korea right now, both game side, outside, just looking at it?
Um, Trending. I mean, there's always stuff trending in Korea all the time.
Yeah.
Um, I recently moved companies, so I've been busy, so I did not have a chance to know what's trending right
It
now.
doesn't have to be like this week or
You know,
anything. Just in general, is that like, you know, from just general outlook of what people are playing or doing, are they more interested in kind of things in the West? Is there new things that are coming up? Is it kind of still business as usual?
I mean, game wise, there's nothing new. I guess people are
Yeah.
still back to old League of Legends. There's
Yeah.
hasn't been a major hit.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing in the rest of the world as well, right? Like you do have a lot of kind of the older games dominating the charts. It's very hard for new people to kind of stick out. You have, your random ones like Helldivers 2, Palworld and stuff. They're still very small as an overall proportion of people actually playing and sticking with these games. Um, so I mean, it makes sense if that's also still similar in Korea. People are just kind of used to what they have rather than new things coming in now. We've definitely seen a lot of that just in the West for sure. So I was wondering if it was kind of just similar in Korea, which it sounds like it probably is.
yeah, it's the same. People are just Steam gamers are waiting for GTA 6. Same thing.
Yeah, so pretty much following along with a lot of the rest of the world. But then, yeah, what has been
Yeah.
happening in Korea this year? We're going more like broader sense now, like I guess politically, monetarily. What the hell happened, man? You had president come
Oh,
in, be politics, then the Korean one has just kind of crashed. What is up, man?
so long story short, the parliament, um, president is conservative, and the parliament majority is progressive. So the president, anything he puts up proposals, all got vetoed, so he couldn't get anything done. So I'm not 100% sure if he truly believes this or is this excuse. But what he said is that the North Korean communist spies are all over the parliament, so will declare
Hmm.
martial law. So he ordered the military to um, make sure no one gets into the parliament, to veto against the martial law. But the special forces and the military were there, but they're like, what the fuck is happening, right? They don't want to shoot
Hmm.
civilians. So in the end,
Yeah.
it got vetoed. So the martial law lasted like, say, like 3 hours, 4 hours. So like barely
Yeah.
anything. And he has been on trial for a long time. It's been postponed a few times, and I think it was last Friday. Yeah, last Friday. So
Hmm.
recently, he has been
Yeah.
he has officially been impeached.
Oh, okay. This just happened. I thought he was already impeached.
No, no. So there is the like different courts, right? Like
Hmm.
levels of courts. So now the final court has judged that that what he did was not constitutional, was not according to the constitution, Korean constitution. So
Yeah.
yeah, he has been impeached.
I mean,
So
about
now
time.
that yep. So now that he's not president, he could get investigated and could go to jail.
Wasn't he already in jail?
Yeah, he was in jail, but then he got bailed out.
Okay, and now he's gonna go back to jail.
Hopefully,
Okay. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's
Fair
why
enough.
I don't. That's why I think one of the reasons why there hasn't been a trend because everyone was, protesting and everyone was tense. They don't know what was happening
Mm.
because they don't know who he has on the inside, and
Yeah.
he was overly confident when he was coming out of bail. So everyone's like, "Oh, maybe he has something up his sleeve."
Oh, okay, but nah, he just got full out. Fair enough. I mean, that's good. Hopefully, it leads to a bit more stability there. I know the
Mm-hmm.
world. I know when I was there, I was enjoying my pound going a lot further for the
Mm-hmm.
one. I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's coming back to normal people land now, especially with how the rest of the West has treated the last month. Let's just say and leave it at that. It's not been the
Mm-hmm.
best time. Uh, but yeah, no. It's good to hear that things are kind of semi clearing up there to some degree and going back to normalcy. But yeah, it was weird. Like even this time when I went to Korea, I definitely felt just sentiment and just a general sense in the air just wasn't as it didn't feel as lively as the last few times I've been there. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely feels like, you know, I guess maybe it's financial strain or everything else happening in the rest of the world. But definitely felt like slower. And even from the outside shine of, the K drama, the K pop, the entertainment industry, it just felt a little bit more, I guess, subdued.
I mean, it's both like you said, it's both political issues plus the economical issue, right? The Korean won went down, so
Hmm.
Korea lives off of exports. So the big
Yeah.
companies are fine because they get paid in dollars.
But yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
the little
it's
guy
a
who gets hit.
it's a little guy, and also the inflation has been through the roof. The like even like pre-COVID, a regular meal will be like what €5 per meal, right?
Hmm.
If you go to like a cheap place, not like a fancy place, but like the cheapest place you can find, it'd be like €5, €7. Now the minimum you pay for like a cheap meal is like €7, €10.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's you're speaking to me. I'm in London, so 10 euros, €5, whatever. It feels like it would
Yeah,
be great.
yeah. No, it's
um,
because it's a the culture is different, right? Because in Korea, no
yeah,
one cooks at home. Everyone goes eats out because it's cheaper to go eat out, or it was, right?
hmm
It was because everyone went out to eat, so their scale,
yeah,
so it was much cheaper to just eat out instead of cooking at home.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I've definitely seen that. Definitely. Well, I mean, I ate out pretty much all the time when I was there, but yeah,
Mhm.
no, I've definitely seen it's very popular, and you have like so many different chains and restaurants and stuff there. Some really good stuff. I mean, I'm missing the fried chicken nowadays, but
Mm.
yeah, yeah, it was a good time. So, okay, to just I guess round us out, is there any other tips, any other things you'd want to shout out about you? Anything else in games? Any other tips for Korea?
I mean, it depends what you are. If you're a game developer and you want to publish, hit up Stove or find someone who knows the Korean industry. Like I said, Korean industry is a island. It has very specific, unique business etiquette, way of business. So if you want to get into the Korean market, it's best to have someone who knows the Korean market.
hmm Yeah,
Just don't
well, I
go
think
in
that makes
blind.
sense. Yeah, I think that's like a big thing in every Eastern market, right? I think it is just a cultural thing of the read the room, the sentiment, going into knowing like who you're speaking with and everything else. Like do your research, get some people on the ground that you can kind of work with, because yeah, otherwise it's much harder to get into those rooms, especially with language barriers and everything else in place as well. And obviously the cultural and business etiquette, like you said.
Also, one more thing. One more
Yeah.
thing. It's because Korean industry, or not just Korean industry, probably it's pretty much the same in Japan too. I don't know about China, but it's run on your name value, right? So, for example,
Mm,
if I introduce someone to another in game industry person, that means I'm putting my name on the line to introduce that person to this person. So if I introduce, for example, if I introduce Jay as a consultant to, let's say, Nexon, right? And Jay does a bad job, right? He's gonna get banished, right, from the Korean gaming industry. But I will also take a hit to my reputation. Then people won't trust me as much. So it's always run on a honor system, a name value system, right? So that's why
mm,
I say that's why I'm saying it's good if you want to come to the Korean game industry, same as Japan. It's good to have someone who is in the industry, who knows the people, who knows the industry, who has a name.
yeah. No, it's always a big plus pretty much everywhere. I know I wouldn't be anywhere near the Korean industry without having you there, kind of thing. So it's always good, good tip to have. Make friends, guys. Make friends. The more friends you have in the games industry, the better it'll be. It is also a small industry, so
Yeah,
yeah, I think
definitely.
name definitely carries a lot. Pretty much globally as well as similar in the UK as well. I
Mhm.
think it's with this industry, especially as a who you know and what your reputation is, and it's very easy to find that out from people around. So it is just,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think, common sense that you don't want to be a douchebag. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, good to know all this. Is anything else you want to say about Korea or you in general, or you're kind of like, yeah, all good?
Well, I mean, if you are curious about Korean market, just hit me up. Yeah, you'll probably find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you need, I'll send Jay a link to my LinkedIn. He can put it if he wants to. But yeah, my name is Daniel Kim, and yeah, and good luck to everyone in the game
Well,
industry.
thanks for joining, Dan. I know it's been
No problem.
long overdue. It's
Hmm.
been long overdue, and yeah, we've kind of had, I guess, double podcasting now. So thanks for the patience in joining me.